Hi, I'm Kathy Kinski, and today we're continuing our series of the most important parenting skill we'll ever have. And by the end of this video, you'll know what the second most important parenting skill is that we'll ever have. You'll also know the 3 essential parts of this skill, and you'll get a template that'll help you start using this parenting skill today with your child. Last time we talked about empathic listening and what it is, why it's so important for our kids. Empathy is simply being still with our kids, and it's about noticing our kids' feelings aloud, really seeing them, taking time to be with them, and to feel what they're experiencing. Empathic listening helps our kids to feel seen then, understood, and met. It calms their nervous systems. It helps them to experience and release emotions that they may be carrying, so those feelings are not held in the body as tension that then gets acted out in their behavior. And when kids feel seen and understood, they're able to release stress, which otherwise interferes with things like concentration, learning, memory, how they do socially, and even how they feel about themselves. We know, too, that when kids feel seen and understood, the reduced stress in their bodies and minds is also really good for their overall health. So today, we're going to take this one step further to how we also at the same time can hold a safe container of structure and boundaries for our kids, because we know that they need this safe container to do well. So today's topic is about empathic boundaries. Yes, empathic boundaries. Let's pause here and talk about the problem with how we often do limits with our kids. 1, we lack the language that helps us to stay connected to our child while effectively holding structure, routines, and boundaries that are helpful for them. 2, when our kids don't respond the way we want, we get frustrated because we don't have another way. 3, we then might give up and are more likely to go into dictator role, which ultimately teaches submission and control rather than true cooperation and leadership by our example. 4, we may then feel guilty and end up being permissive. 5, we may then get frustrated by the behavior that permissive parenting tends to bring about in our kids, and then swing over to the other extreme, authoritarian parenting. The result? Anxious, stressed out kids and parents, and a stressed parent and child relationship. Empathic boundaries are important because they allow us as parents to stay connected to our child at the same time as we're holding a boundary or structure when it's needed. And why is it so important to stay connected to our child when we hold a boundary or structure? Because it helps them to stay present and calm enough to understand the boundary, and this is the really important part, to not experience shame and disconnection as part of learning boundaries and structure. Their learning instead is that they can experience connection while someone is also holding a boundary. And this is really important because at the same time it's modeling for them how to set boundaries inside of a relationship. When our kids have experienced ongoing stress, trauma, or loss, the tool of empathic boundaries becomes even more important. In fact, I would say it becomes critical. So maybe they're experiencing something like their parents' divorce, or learning challenges in school, or the loss of someone they love, or maybe a move away from everything that's familiar to them. Because stress for kids is often held as tension in their bodies, it also often gets acted out in their behaviors, unless they have opportunities to express how they're feeling and someone who can also hold safe boundaries and structure for them as needed. So we need to remember that behavior is always telling us a story about our kids, about their inner life. And it's up to us, parents, to listen, to tune in to what's underneath that behavior. And we know that when we're able to hold a safe container of listening empathically and having routine and boundaries around things like aggression or destroying things, especially with kids who have had trauma, there are less and less of those problem behaviors then that are stress-related over time. So I'll go now into what an empathic boundary is and what an empathic boundary sounds like, starting with an example. So Josh is upset because he's not wanting to go to school. He wants to stay home and play. So an example of an empathic boundary, what that would sound like would be this: I can see your frustration about going to school when what you really want to do, Josh, is just stay home and play. And we need to get you to school now so you can learn. We'll have more time to play though after school today. So an empathic boundary has 3 parts. The first part is where we lead with empathy by using empathic listening. And we talked about that in another video, which I'll reference below. I can see your frustration about going to school, Josh, when what you really want to do is just stay home and play. And the second part uses the most important word in the whole statement, and that word is and. The word and is so important because it helps us and our children to experience connection and boundaries at the same time. Our child is not learning boundaries in a polarized way where boundaries are a part of disconnection from us, shame, or stress or difficulty. Instead, they're experiencing boundaries as a healthy part of a connected and emotionally safe relationship. The third part of the empathic boundary then is the boundary or the structure. We need to get you to school now so you can learn. So here is that empathic boundary again. See if you can hear all 3 parts. I can see your frustration about going to school when what you really want to do is stay home and play now. And we need to get you to school now so you can learn. We'll have more time to play after school today. So to hold an empathic boundary with our child, always lead with empathy. Why? For the connection, staying on the same side of the fence with our child, maintaining that I am with you message that is so calming to them and helps them to be able to respond in the way that we're hoping they will. Next, remember the second part, the word and, not but and. The third part, holding the structure or the boundary. Can you see how this empathic boundary allows us to stay connected with our child, to relate to their needs and preferences, to see them as a person, even as we're also holding structure or a boundary that's also important to them? How this recognizes them as a person and moves you out of a place of sometimes feeling like a dictator and to a place of being a safe container for them, a guide. Empathic boundaries are also important because they prevent us as parents from swinging between authoritarian parenting and permissive parenting. That creates a ton of anxiety for our kids and stress for them and also for us parents. When we know how to stay connected to our heart and thus to our child while holding boundaries and structure and that safe container for our child,
we're much less likely to be reverting back to those two extreme parenting practices or swinging that don't grow secure, calm, well-adjusted kids who do well in relationships and in life. So that's it for today. Be sure to watch the next video where we'll talk about how to handle tantrums and how to prevent them. I hope this has served you today. Be sure to subscribe below and you'll be the first to hear about my latest videos. And if you're watching this anywhere else except my vlog, head on over to kathykinsky.com where more of the conversation happens. And be sure to comment below and let me know what you found helpful and what you'd like to hear more about in the future for your parenting. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Want to begin using empathic boundaries with your child today? Click the link below to get your free template that'll get you started.